Okay, good morning. Welcome back. I'm Helen Madsmith, and I came across a video, I think before Bo did, and in truth, I don't want to. I don't want to be the guy to say, "Hey, I found this before you did." But he did a great job. I'm assuming that he reacted to this video of this man discussing previous events in his life. And the original video, I watched it before I watched Bo's reaction to it. Not knocking Bo, but I it prompted me to begin to speak about things that I had experienced in my past. And one of the things that I'm experiencing most recently, especially today and in previous days, has been an experience I had 3 years ago with my family. And in 2022, I lost my job and I essentially became homeless. And I had to reach out to family to ask for some help. And it was a failed endeavor. It turned out to be awful. It was horrible. And I went through a few months with my brother, and it became violent and very difficult to even hold a job that I had gotten with a restaurant. And I couldn't sustain it. I had to leave. I had to go. I actually had to text 911, which you can do if you don't know. If you're in a situation and you can't call, I know that here recently, just to get a little bit off topic, if you cannot call 911 and ask for help, everybody talks about you can order a pizza. You can text 911 and a dispatcher will respond. Okay? So don't be misled. You can text 911. And I've done so. I had to do that night. And I can remember it periodically, you know, during that event, my brother would come into the room periodically, and he was just out of his mind, and I couldn't say anything. The walls were thin, and I had to text 911 and say, "Hey, I'm in a very bad situation. I can't leave right now. When the sun comes up, can you send somebody to pick me up? I need to go to the hospital." So I went through that, and after leaving the hospital, I contacted another relative, and I'm like, "Look, can I find and seek refuge with you?" Well, I stayed there at my aunt's house for about a week. Well, during that week, like I'm in a state of homelessness. My life is in disarray, and I'm going through bags, and I'm trying to organize documents and pack things away to keep the clutter to essentially keep the clutter to a minimum and not impose so much on my relative's life. And I was doing this one night, and this my aunt came to me and was like, "You don't have to leave. Why are you packing your stuff? You don't have to leave." I'm like, "It's 9:30 at night. Why are you talking about leaving? Like I'm just mitigating my clutter. I'm just trying to organize things." "Well, you're packing your bags. You don't have to leave." Okay, I'm not leaving, but I mean, since you're talking about it, I don't know if I'm going to be going to be forced to leave. After having this conversation, like I'm just organizing my things, and it became an argument. It became this weird thing where it was like, well, since you're making a big deal out of it, I don't know if you're about to make me leave. Well, these types of interactions continued, And it was like, I can't be crazy. I can't be the insane one. And an argument ensued about, you know, I'm not, I don't have a job yet. I'm not doing anything. You know, while I'm on my laptop, redoing my resume and trying to, you know, figure out what I'm going to do next. And the next thing that I know is that the sheriff's deputies show up. And, you know, apparently my aunt had called the police and was saying, you know, you need to come get, you know, me, because I don't know what she had reported, but I had warrants for unpaid traffic tickets that I didn't know were there. And next thing I know, I'm being hauled to jail. And I'm like, well, gee, thanks. You know, after all of this, I'm going to jail. And so I spent a few nights there, and they released me at 2 in the morning to walk away from the jail with nothing, no one to talk to, no one to call, no assistance, no help. And so I walked to the nearest Walmart, and you know, when the sun came up at a reasonable hour, I called and I texted my aunt. I was like, look, can you just bring me my things, and I'll leave you alone. I won't bother you. I don't want to cause trouble and drama. And that turned into 8 hours of back and forth, trying to negotiate arguments, etc., constantly. And the whole time, like I'm flying a homeless sign, like I'm like, I need money, I need help, you know. And ultimately, this aunt had required me to find a ride to come to her property 20 miles away to retrieve my items and then go back out into homelessness. So ultimately, I was able to find a ride to get there, get my things. And the whole day I had raised up enough money through Cash App. A lot of people were generous enough to help me. And I wish I could remember them and thank them even today. And I raised up enough money for a bus ticket to get to a different state where jobs were more abundant. And so I went to her home and retrieved as much of my belongings as I could carry. Okay, I left a lot of tools and things that were too heavy to take with me. I left them behind. But I was dropped off at the Greyhound bus station. And the next ride, the next bus out, was like 24 hours later. And so it was me just having to sit there and wait with all of my stuff, waiting on the next bus. No money except for what I had. And ultimately, the very next day before the bus was ready to go, this very same aunt that came, that had essentially kicked me out, called the police on me, comes to the bus station and, demands that she's able to buy me lunch. And says, starts telling me how she doesn't want me to leave. I wish you'd just come home. You just, I love you, on and on. She's crying alligator tears. And I looked at her and I said, well, what made you think that this was going to be helpful and it was going to draw us closer together? Like, what made you think that this was going to be any kind of good? And she looks at me and she says, well, my grandmother did it to me, and I'm just trying to teach you a lesson. And I had to look at her in her eyes and express to her that, well, just because someone did something bad to you Does that mean it's okay to do that same bad thing to someone else? Does that make it okay? And she didn't have an answer. And I looked at her and I said, if life is already difficult, if life is already hard, and there's already going to be hardships in life thrown at you, what do you think it's going to benefit somebody by you giving them more hardship in the name of teaching them a lesson? And she didn't have an answer. She did not have an answer. All she knew to say is that, well, I love you and I want the best for you. But she had gone about it in such a horrible manner that essentially she had no answer for her behaviors. She couldn't stop. And so I had left. I'd gotten on the bus, and she's still crying alligator tears, and I moved to an entirely different state. 4 states away, gone. And it really impacted me. But I was set about on this journey. I've got to go somewhere. I've got to get a job. I've got to get out of poverty and homelessness. And I did so to the best of my ability. But where it's led me now is that 3 years later, my entire life has been consumed with working and trying to raise money to fund my life. And there is zero support network for someone like me. You know, there's zero support. I have no family I can call and reach out to. In fact, the friends I have made here are work friends, they're coworkers. You can't really reach out to them. It's a professional relationship. And so essentially, it's kind of doubled up the burden, of trying to stay out of poverty and stay out of homelessness and having no one to reach out to. It's kind of a double hit. And the reason I bring this up is, in fact, because of this man's story. And let me go down and actually pull up his... And I'm going to hit pause. Because it's not your fault you're behind in life. Well, there is some fault for me, okay? There is some fault. I have to bear some responsibility. But he's not wrong. He's not wrong. A lot of the things that I have gone through, it's difficult to get beyond it, especially when you have no support network. And the support network that you remember caused undue stress and harm in your life in, for example, an effort to teach you a lesson. Life is already hard. And if you're going around trying to teach people lessons, you're doing more harm than good. And so I set about here recently to start a YouTube channel. One, because I wanted to get out of the corporate rat race, but two, because I can't even find assistance or have a network of individuals, a support network, without paying for it. So at least maybe perhaps my story would help someone, would help someone in their life as well. But in truth, what's taken place in my life, I can't make heads or tails of right away. I don't really even know how to deal with a lot of the events and experiences I've witnessed. And so I don't really know how to conclude that. I'm still dealing with it, and I'm still up in the air about it. And unfortunately, I'm probably not the only one going through instances such as this. I'm probably not the only one, but not to not to be too emotional about it. I wish that I had a message to give you. I really do. But moving forward, I want to try to formulate that message and give you some help with it if you are someone who is going through something like this or have experienced something like this in the past. I want to be someone and a channel who is really making a difference in this regard, because when you reach out today, there's not going to be anyone. They're not there. They're going to give you more hardships to try to teach you a lesson, as opposed to actually being an assistant, being an assisting person. They're going to try to teach you a lesson. Oh, you're homeless? Get a job, kind of deal, which is a good start. But essentially, in today's society, you'll work and work and work, and it will be, now for me 3 years, could be for you 10 years down the road. You now got to go back and revisit something that happened in your past and deal with that while you're still working. Like, the expectations do not stop. So I wanted to share that with you, and perhaps you'll benefit from it. I don't know. But I want to thank you for viewing. If you made it this far, I appreciate your viewership, and I want to give you the opportunity to look out for more videos coming from me. I'm trying my best to learn how to do this and branch out and get out of the same cycle of working my life away depending on people who aren't there. So perhaps I could make some money with this, and I want to keep this video short. One thing I do want to do is learn how to edit my videos properly. I'm not going to do this one. I'm just going to let it stand. But maybe we'll see you in the next one. I'm Howlin' Mad Smith. Don't hesitate to sub, give it a like, comment. Let me know something. Perhaps you have a story to share as well. Thank you.